I've lived 1,000 lives. I've piloted 1,000 souls. I've killed and fought at night just for another role.
This is the Happy Jacks RPG podcast, a roundtable discussion that's a mix of friendship, humor, unbridled enthusiasm, and tabletop RPG topics sent in from around the world.
Just for another role.
Hello, and welcome to Season 35, Episode 1 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. My name is Kimmy,
My name is Artem.
and in today's episode, we are talking... Stephen from Nashville is disappointed with D&D Beyond's offering. Eric from Alabama wants advice about a new teenage GM. And from the archive 2017, Dave from New York shares a confession.
Ooh.
If you'd like to contribute a question or story to the show, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. Or you can post in the mailbag channel of the Discord. Please start sending stuff in. I know everybody took a break, but we need more stuff. We need more content. And I know when you scroll through the mailbag channel in the Discord, it seems like there's a lot of things there, but we've used a lot of things there. So send in things.
Yeah,
It's fun.
keep asking those questions.
Yeah.
Keep them coming.
I do want to acknowledge the people who have sent in the hot tea and gossip from their campaigns.
We do appreciate it.
I do need to spread it out a little bit because we are not just a hot tea and gossip show, although I'm thinking it may become a significant factor in the future because people have stuff to
We
say.
could have a spin-off show that's just like the juice.
Yeah,
The juice.
there we go. That's what we need. But yes, so send in other stuff too, questions, rants, whatever. Announcements. We'll be at OrcCon 2025 at the LAX Hilton on February 14th through the 17th. And we will be streaming live on Saturday night, the podcast we usually do. It's a little bit wild. It's a lot of fun. A little bit drinky usually. But
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Super
It's
fun.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You're going to love it.
so if you want to join us there, you can come play games. Most of us run games. Yeah, it's fun. We hang out. It's great. And I'm going to be at Gamma Expo the weekend after OrcCon.
Ooh.
So if you're going to be at Gamma Expo, which is mostly like an industry thing, it's a convention in Louisville, Kentucky, then hit me up. Maybe we could hang out, get drinks, have a meeting if you want to be official about it or whatever. I don't know. I'm trying to network. It's weird.
Super exciting. Yay, Kimmy.
I guess. I don't know. I'm also going as I'm running the Horizon Fellowship this year. I'm kind of going as their den mother / teacher field trip leader.
Sure.
So I'm setting up their booth with them and okay, we're all going from the hotel.
Right.
Yeah, luckily
Yeah.
I have a lot of experience.
Typecast much? Yeah.
A little bit. Back in the day
Perfect.
when we used to all go down to OrcCon and then we'd go bar hopping to different things, inevitably I'd be okay, everybody pick a buddy. And
yeah.
I've only lost one Happy Jacks host. And
I
yeah.
was still out there somewhere.
Somewhere. But we eventually found him very drunk on the loading platform behind one of the large hotels. It was fine.
Very good.
It's great.
We've all been there.
Yeah. Wild. All right. Anyway, and for Indie Designer of the Month, we're actually waiting till February because we want an Indie Designer of the Month to get a full month, and it's the 18th of January. So we're waiting.
Fair.
So hold, please, for an amazing indie designer for February, who will be
You'll blow your
unveiled then.
mind.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
amazing. All right. So Artem,
Yes.
would you like to read the first
Oh
email?
my god, I'll be delighted. Kimmy, this is exciting. Season 35, everybody.
We made it.
Woo! Okay, mailbag number 1. Dear Happy Jack friends, I am writing this on 12th of January 2025. First, let me extend my prayers of safety to everyone in danger of the fires currently threatening the California peoples. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I hope the best of outcomes for everyone. I now move on to the meat of my email. Last week, my brother who lives in Alabama asked me to DM a game for his family as his oldest son is interested in Dungeons and Dragons.
Ooh.
I, a soon-to-be 48-year-old person, having not played in 10 to 15 years, excitedly agreed. We decided on a once-a-month, 2-hour session to be played online as I live in Tennessee. Now, this is where my concern apprehension rears their heads. I have listened to the show in those interim years as a means of keeping up with the hobby. Even so, I am struggling to find online tools to help facilitate play. We are using D&D Beyond to keep track of the characters, but the maps and counter section I find very lacking. I know the show is on a break and won't return until after I've had my first session, but any advice on where to find free to cheap tools to help visually with combat would be grateful. Also, any advice to keep my young niece, she is in 2nd grade, to use uncle age approximation terms, interested in the game as she'll be playing as well. I already have created a cursed ring of temporal displacement to explain her character's potential presence or absence depending on my niece's level of interest during any sessions. I hope to inspire my brother's family to explore more options in the TTRPG hobby in the future, but they're only interested in D&D for now, so any help will be appreciated. Thank you. Steven in Nashville. Furious Sulfate 325 in Discord. P.S. I am using Decuma in our first session to build the party bond, so thank you, Kimmy.
Exciting.
Here.
Yay.
Very exciting.
Oof. So yeah, D&D Beyond is amazing at like keeping control of like keeping track of your stuff if you're playing D&D for your character. It's great. Like, oh, I can click on this and there's a little bubble that pops up that tells me exactly what this spell does and how it works. I, as someone who does not have the best memory for small details like that for a game I play once every like 4 years.
Yes.
It's amazing. I love it. But yeah, the stuff that's included, they want to sell you things. So the way it works is you can, and most people listening probably know this, but you can buy the different adventures. And generally if the GM buys it, then they can share it with all the players without it. And the players don't have to pay anything. But as the GM, just like you buy the books, like Curse of Strahd, you buy the book Curse of Strahd, you have to buy it in D&D Beyond. So, and then you get all the stuff with it for that adventure.
Totally. Yeah. It's pay to play, sure.
Yeah.
And I also think a lot of their usability is, I think, limited as they're like still working out how they're gonna do it and stuff. Roll20, I think, seems to be a go-to for a lot of folks, and they do have a basic free to use thing, and that's got a lot of like good stuff. Like it's got the fog of war kind of thing. It's got the line of sight, so like if you're in a tunnel and it's total darkness, your character will only see what they can see ahead of them, and then the rest will be fogged out. And it's kind of cool. Like if you rotate your character, they'll like only see in that direction. I believe Kobo Press partnered up with Shard Tabletop. I think that's the one they use, and that was really fun too. I think it's, again, very similar, and that I think Shard Tabletop actually gives you a lot more for free. Yeah, you get like a bunch of adventures included, a bunch of like character tokens, a bunch of usability for maps. So I would almost start with Shard, because I think at this point Roll20 has become so kind of big and so kind of like connected to the Dungeons and Dragons sphere, that like I think a lot of the stuff you get in Roll20, it costs a bit. But I will say this: if you're signed up to like if you're subscribed to like Roll20's email list, you get updates about like discounts. And so like I think a couple of months ago, a friend of mine was telling me got this like humble bundle, but for like $20 got like a bunch of stuff for Pathfinder. I got a bunch of stuff for like the Alien RPG. Got a bunch of stuff for just like a ton of different games for like a huge discount. So they run discounts and it's like totally affordable. Those are the ones like come to mind really quick, like Roll20, Shard Tabletop is really nice. Foundry is pretty cool too. It's got some good like I think it's got some like what do you call it? Like atmospheric music design. That's kind of neat too.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
For if you're gonna stick with D&D Beyond, which there's also Foundry. Foundry's another one that
That's what I just said. Yeah.
And Bill's used that one a whole lot.
Yeah.
I think that one takes a lot more work to like get customized, but it's more customizable.
Yes, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like the Android phone versus the iPhone. Like
100%.
it takes a little bit more finicking, but you can get it there. And if you're really nerdy about it, you probably fall in love and never get an iPhone again. Jason, I'm looking at you, Jason.
Yeah.
But one of the things I love is third-party content creators, and especially for like map making, there are so many out there. And like if you search around on Patreon, there are people who do Patreon, and you can and like they give like to their Patreons, they give a bunch of free maps every month or whatever, and like. There's also people who sell it like individually. So if you go on any of the like drive-through RPG, things like that, there's a bunch of people who you can look around and find the exact map you want and buy it. And personally, I feel better about that than giving more money to Hasbro, basically.
Right.
But yeah, that's my personal preference.
When I use maps, I'm similarly a bit of a forager.
Mhm.
So oh my gosh, this is a little embarrassing because it is such an immediately obsolete map tool, but it's called Gamescape, and it has 4 functions. You can share a picture on it. You can add a token with your character's name. You can draw a line, to designate. You can also use a tape measure. And if you're the person who is running the map, you can create a little, fog of war, if you will, that you then have to like reveal to your players. But that's it. Like, it doesn't do anything else. But if you want something to share to be able to like graphically represent something, I think like use something like Gamescape, and then like per Kimmy's advice, like link up with some third-party content creators, get a map from here, get some tokens from another place,
Get an adventure from there. There's so
yeah.
many adventures.
So like kind of scrappy, put it all together. There's a site, there's a creator called, I think, 2 Minute Tabletop, that makes a ton of maps, and it'll be like fortress in winter, fortress in fall, fortress in like it's now haunted, and it's just like the same picture but just with different vibes, and they'll sell these like packs of like 600 pieces of assets for like $10, and you're like you've got your campaigns for years, it's all done for you. And again, that's stuff like you can just plug into something as simple as like a virtual basically whiteboard like Gamescape, and just kind of put it all together. For me, that's the way I like to do it, because I feel like I like to have very limited functionality so that I don't get lost in the sauce of all of the bells and whistles. And free is a price that I'm willing to pay for that,
Yeah, absolutely. There's also people who will do custom maps and things for you, which I've had friends do for
cool,
specific
yeah.
campaigns, or especially a lot of people in the streaming space will do that. And if you really want, I mean, it's still pretty affordable. Like, it's not super, super expensive, but if you want it had like the map you want for like your final showdown with your big bad or stuff like that, you can get stuff custom made, which is really amazing.
So cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Oh my gosh.
I follow a bunch of people on Blue Sky that do that, and I'm just like, they're like, here's a map I made for so and so, and you're just like, oh, that's so cool.
I bet something like that would be such a fantastic buy-in for a group that's like just getting into this, especially if you have a young player, and be like, hey, guess what? This person designed this especially for us, and these are the notes that I sent them, and here's how they came up with it. Like, I think like your niece would absolutely like love that, just to know like that somebody was like so carefully like crafted something just exactly for your game. That's a lovely way to like get some buy-in.
Yeah, or have her give you ideas for it. Like, okay,
Yes.
so if we had like a big fight, and like second grade like probably isn't gonna like when she gets there, she'll be like, oh, this is the thing you talked to me about months ago. But until then, you're like, okay, what? Tell me, like, you're imagining a dungeon. What would you have in there? She's like, well, there's gonna be like little rats and like skeletons, or I don't know, whatever she says. And then like you can have that stuff in there, and then it's like, oh, with things, brought to you by niece's name, insert here, like. Just like, I don't know. I would lose my mind about that as an adult.
Are you kidding me? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Based on your suggestions, Artem, who got this special thing for me, be like, for me? How did you do this? You know what I mean? Yeah. I think it would be a fantastic moment.
Yeah.
Definitely. I would love to play in a map designed by a 2-year-old. Honestly, that's
amazing. It's an amazing company idea, honestly.
Yeah. Wasn't there this is a little off topic, but is there a show called Axe Cop or something? But it's this animator or this comic book designer who like would ask his like 6-year-old son, like, all right, let's make a comic book. Like, what's it about? He's like, oh, it's about but it's about this like cop, but also like half his body is like an axe, or a T-Rex cop. He's like a T-Rex plus a cop. And then I think they recently turned it into like an actual animated series, and it's just like, it's so perfectly like, yep, it's exactly the vision of the 6-year-old. We've made it real. It's pretty great.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I think a second grader's got some juice. So okay, lean in.
Yeah. In the chat, they're also suggesting Pro Fantasy Campaign Cartographer. And there's that comes up a lot in the Humble Bundle, which I never can say correctly. Humble Bundle is really, which I just said correctly, is actually a really great thing for tons of great deals.
Yes.
I love the bundles.
And oh my gosh, I'm forgetting it now. But even if you go on Reddit, or just Google it, but there are a couple of good recognition of like hack scroll maps. Like if you want to do a bigger map of your world, and there's a couple of hack scroll maps that are like. I mean, like this really depends. I think on like how much how much you want to be involved in the creation of the map. But if you are trying to just like show what a world could look like, I think these are like these like randomly generated hex maps where you put in a couple of prompts and it just sort of like populates it with hexes as a way to like just spark somebody's creativity.
Yeah,
you know.
that's awesome. Yeah. And honestly, just like scroll through social media, whatever when you want. A lot of times for promotions, like people who do custom cartography. Maps like this will put out samples like, hey, like they put like one out a month or whatever it is. And you can find some really incredible stuff and then find creators that you then want to continue to support. And maybe you buy some of their maps and stuff like that.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, I think, a little bit easier to be more particular with that. Because when you're engaging with something like D&D Beyond or Roll20, it's like, I feel like just like the learning curve of like, what's all the stuff that I can do is like a little taxing. Because they'll use terms that are like necessarily like easy to understand, like, you know. And also it might kind of make you feel like you're kind of backed into a corner, but like, I guess I have to learn how to use all this stuff. So it just might be easier for you to start just like reaching out on social media. Yeah. For the specific things you need.
Yeah. If you do want like the pairing though, like if you're doing the buffet style of like, okay, I'm gonna have this adventure and I'm gonna go find my own map and then I'm gonna do this. That's probably the best way to go. If you want just everything like together, like for D&D specifically, DM's Guild, like in Drive-Thru RPG, is probably the easiest place to go. You'll get your adventure with the maps included and pictures of the big bads usually.
Yep, and they'll always include the VTT stuff.
Yeah,
they'll give you the JPEGs, the VTT stuff, the PDFs. It's
exactly
pretty thorough.
Yeah. So and the good ones will even give you like information like the GM side of things a little bit more, how to run things, and especially if you're newer to it, they're like, here's a little bit of a guide and stuff like that.
Yeah. So. There's definitely like a bunch of stuff that's like, here's how to run Princess of the Apocalypse. Here's how to run, Rise of Tiamat or whatever, It really gives you like a nice little ramp up if you're doing something, some pre-published IP. Yeah.
Awesome. But yeah, tell us how it's going, because I want to know how the second grader does. I want to know what's like where you eventually get your stuff from. Like, how does it work?
I want to know about these party bonds built with Decima with the second grader. Yeah. So please,
how does that go?
Drop a line.
I've gotten really cool stories about like kids participating in like world building with Decima, and every time it just warms my heart.
So cool.
It's very good. All right, mailbag number 2. Greetings, O Jackers of Legends. Long time, first time. Backlog, yes. Heeding the call for emails. You know the drill. What's the drill? In your best Leslie Nielsen deadpan, if you please. That noisy power tool with a spinning... I don't have any... So
you're doing it. You're crushing
it. Okay, good. That noisy power tool with a spinning bit up front, but it's not important right now.
Very good.
Okay, thank you. I'll be podcasting all week. Preamble complete. Verse the 2nd. I have in my home an aspiring GM in her early teens who has found herself replete with ideas about what to present to those of us older and newer gamers who will accompany her on her journey. Don't fret too much, but the game is D&D 5th edition. Training wheels to esteemed panel, I know, but it's early days yet. Anyway, the challenge for an aspiring GM is how to craft ideas into a story, and from there, to open the story to player characters to smash to bits. And it's been a while since the assembled crew have gotten, I feel like assembled crew, it's capitalized, so it's like official like TM.
Yeah, crew.
Assembled crew, yes. Have gotten a question about the absolute basics. So I thought I'd canvas the wisdom of experience. Item the first. What advice do you have for someone in her early teens, eager as heck to run some D&D, and a little overwhelmed by the number of elements she wants to include? Are there any specific pitfalls she should avoid, or any best practices she should consider? Do you want to do them one by one, or should I read them all out and then?
Oh, happy to switch up. Sure.
Oh no. I mean, like, should we address that question and then move on?
Okay. Kimmy.
Very organized.
You're so good at this. Good job. Okay, so
like I've been doing it for 35 seasons.
So the first item is, what advice do you have for someone who's in her early teens, eager as heck to run some D&D, and a little overwhelmed by the number of elements she wants to include? Oh my God, I feel like I am this person. Are there any specific pitfalls she should avoid or any best practice she should consider? I am this teen. Wow. I
we wish.
mean, I'm almost overwhelmed by like the amount of things
Oh,
to
the
suggest.
irony.
But yeah, but let's see. Things to avoid being overwhelmed by. My first suggestion would be the thing to avoid is you don't need to know every rule or any explanation or every explanation for a rule.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of levity you can have with coming into a session and being like, "Hey, gang, I'm learning D&D with you guys." So the first couple of sessions are gonna be, we'll try to figure out what's going on, and if maybe we can solve it on the fly, great. If not, I've got a computer here, and I'll just Google it, and we'll just have to pause the game for a little bit. And that's kind of, the analog of that back in the days that everybody's like, hold on a moment, and you bust out the tome
book, yeah.
and you're flipping through the pages. So like you don't need to feel the pressure to learn everything back and forwards.
Yeah, and as the players, you can kind of help with that and take the pressure off.
Yeah.
Be like, "Oh, I know. Why don't you look that up?" And like give her permission to like have that space.
Yeah.
And I think that's hugely beneficial. Like it's sort of like when people get called on in class, like it's like, "Oh, you can pick a helper," or "Okay, we're gonna like come back to you in a couple of minutes, like give you some time." And like giving someone just taking that pressure off can lead to so much better thinking on their part. Like highly recommend.
Yeah. And another thing I would say, even though it's not necessarily expressly laid out in like the official like players handbooks and stuff like that, but it is sort of like, I think ubiquitously the common knowledge and the practice is that like you get to make the game your own.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's okay to come up with rulings and decide how things should work. And then if everybody's having a great time, amazing, moving along. If everybody's having a great time, but they're also curious how it's actually supposed to be done, you can look it up after the session.
Yeah.
So that's just a thing out there, is that everybody takes these rules and does their own thing with them. So you don't have to learn them for sure, and you can kind of work to make them your own anyways.
Yeah. I think having her lay out her ideas, once you're better at GMing, you can like have multiple paths and things like that. For new GMs, I kind of like having it set up like a timeline. And me in my old age would generally do it on like 3x5 cards. So you've got your starting point, you've got your ending point, and those are kind of fixed. And then the points in between each has their own 3x5 card, and those can be swapped around depending on where you go.
Cool.
So just like, I don't know, I'm sure there's something that does that, but I can't think of something. But it's sort of like these flipping around points. So if she gets caught off guard, or if you do something she hasn't planned for, she can grab another 3x5 card, put that there on her timeline, and then have whatever's on that 3x5 card there. And then having that 3x5 card have like just not even like no paragraphs, just like note information, like whatever the challenge of that place is. The people they might meet there ahead of time, just like even if it's just random names, so that way she has something to kind of glom onto, because even me as a full-fledged adult, when I first started GMing, could not just pull that information out of nothing. So it always helps to have that there. But that will give her a through line that she can kind of follow, and still have some flexibility without her being put on the spot to improv a bunch of stuff.
That's really cool. Yeah, and I think to that point, just making a quick note for yourself where the session started and the location where the session ended is just a good way to be able to like reference where you're at in the story. I would say try to ask your players, what do you guys want to do, as often as you can. Give them a little something to start off with, and then turn to them and say, what do you want to do? That's a good way to sort of get everybody in the mood of we're all doing this together. The pressure's not just on me to kind of drive this forward.
My favorite thing in that vein is always asking, okay, so what are you feeling?
Yeah.
What are you thinking about right now?
Yeah.
Because that also, while getting people more into character, also is a great stalling tactic.
Yeah. Great.
yeah.
great bluffing. Yep.
Yeah, they're like, oh, this is so deep. Oh, I'm feeling this and that. And you're like, okay, maybe there's a barn next. And there's like a horse in the barn who's like purple. And you're
Right.
just like frantically trying to think of things. You're like, oh, yeah, nodding. You're like, oh, that's
Totally.
so deep. I'm so impressed that your character's thinking that and feeling that.
That's very good. That's
Yeah.
very good. Yeah. How does that make you feel?
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah,
Very
and
good.
people will talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's great because it really does help the game and it informs you as a GM, but it gives you a few more minutes to like figure out what's next.
No, but there's something really deep there. It's just like it gets people to think about their characters and wanting to kind of embody their characters more. I think that's a fantastic recommendation. Even if you're doing it just to bluff, everybody at the table is going to appreciate being like,
Yeah.
how do I feel? Oh my gosh. Well, my kobold cleric is concerned. Of course, I am thinking about my studies in the kobold church. Like great. Yeah, that's a great place for people to kind of explore with role playing. Which is, you know what, like to piggyback off of that. Tell your players like, hey, we're all learning how to do this together. Don't worry about doing a voice. Don't worry about doing a character. Like, do whatever your version of like fun is. Just like I think helping everybody have this like expectations of like what it's going to be like. Do a silly voice. Don't do a silly voice. I don't know,
No, I think that's
good advice?
great. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's a lot of pressure, especially being someone younger. She's probably watched a bunch of APs and stuff.
For
and
sure.
a lot of APs like put a lot of pressure on GMs to have all those performance pieces in their toolkit. And if you do, great. If she wants to play with it, amazing. Don't be judgmental, be helpful. Like
yeah.
but also like there's no requirements. Like you can have an incredible game, an incredible story, and not be doing voices for every NPC or whatever. So absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, should we move on to the second bit?
I had another bit, if I can remember what it was.
Please, yes.
So
While
I
you,
don't remember.
while you think about it,
Yeah.
I'll just how does this make me feel?
Yeah,
I'll
how does this make you feel,
it's
Artem?
really making me just think about
Oh,
all of the.
I remember actually that really did
Oh,
help.
really? Okay.
See,
Great.
my brain is now programmed.
Amazing.
So make sure she knows that she doesn't have to come up with everything.
Yeah.
Like it is absolutely fine to ask, okay, your player, what does it look like? Now, if she has specific things she's created or has monsters she's picked that she wants to be a very specific way, that's fine. She absolutely can do that. But it can be a lot of pressure to come up with absolutely everything. And I feel like that's the first kind of big lesson of a GM is to learn that you can source things from your players, and that increases buy-in. And for them, a lot of the time, some players hate it, but for most players, they love having a little bit of say in stuff.
Yeah.
Even if it's just having them describe, okay, you make the killing blow, tell me what it looks like. Like they really
yes,
like
yes,
that. So that's a great thing for
Yeah,
a new GM to start trying.
Describe to me what that looks like. Tell me what you see. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Mhm.
This actually I feel like it transitions well to the second point because I just saw what we're getting the second one. But I have a thing that I'll comment off of the. So the item the second in the email is, what can we do as players to ease her into and through and beyond her first session? Are there any things we should watch out for or make sure we do to nurture her? First, listen, by the way, these are just fantastic questions. I love the way they're phrased, and I love how kind and considerate they are. Really lovely. I feel like you're already in a good place. This is going to be a great time. So the thing I was going to suggest is, and this is kind of going off what Kimmy was just saying, to both increase the buy-in and also to help ease the GM in and to the players. Have like at the first session, everybody kind of go, hey, what's the vibe? If this was a TV show, if this was a movie, those sort of starter questions, just like, what do we want this to feel like? And then I think as players, you could offer, hey, for my character, here's a couple of references. I want this character to feel a little bit like, God, I'm like blanking on characters from kids' TV shows. I'm like, I want this character to be like Tony Soprano, but a baker, But like, so basically, give your GM some reference points so that your GM is like, oh, I understand what this character is. And I understand what you're going for. What, kids these days so much The Sopranos?
I want to see like that tough mafia,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Baker
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
You coming for my bread? You're coming for my bread?
What do you mean stuff focaccia? It's a focaccia.
Disrespect on my bagels.
Oh, you don't like my sourdough starter? You can do better. Yeah, but you know what I mean. So you coming in with a character idea that's based on a TV show that you both have watched together. It could be a TV show, it could be a reality TV show, it could be a movie, like something you guys have in common. Because right away, that is you showing buy-in into the world, you making it an easy way to like have a common language as to like what the feeling of this character is going to be, and it's going to spark, I think, the creativity of other people around the table to be like, ooh, you know, I want my character to feel more like Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad, except he's a surfer and he's a cat. I don't know, like I can't think of any kids shows.
What about Ash Ketchum from Pokemon?
There you go, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. Buddy,
I mean, yeah, it's an old kid show, but there you go.
Sorry, now I have Jesse Pinkman switched with Ash Ketchum, and I just imagined Ash Ketchum making meth with Heisenberg.
I mean,
Oh, what a world! But yes, there
gotta
we go.
sell it all.
Gotta sell it.
Sorry, it's very bad.
This is really this. There's something there.
Yeah.
So okay. So that's my suggestion: is to increase buy-in, help everybody find like a common vibe, common sense of the world based on characters that are related to pop culture that you all guys have in common.
Yeah, I love also that's part of like just really great pre-game like preparation. So we have stuff like the cats, which is like a pre-game like safety tool set where you talk about like the campaign norms, and the cat stands for a specific thing, which I'm gonna forget.
I literally
like
we did this in session 0 of What About Bob's, and I
Yeah.
can't remember what cast.
Yeah. I always do it, but it's like tone. You explain the tone of the game, things that are allowed in the game, like basic policies, like an open door policy, like you can get up and leave at any time if you have to, or if your kid, if your babysitter for your kid calls, you can take the call without like being judged, stuff like that. So going through that, picking like a touchstone from media is huge with that. And yeah, just going through and laying down those norms in session 0, like having a session 0 with her and having her run that for you, and helping with that is a big deal. And laying down like, hey, we're not going to be rules lawyers for this particular game. So if, she makes an adjudication that's not right, fine, don't worry about it. We're not going to fight about it at the table. If you wanted to, talk about it later or make notes. So after that campaign, if you wanted her, like, or whatever, like you want to set up what you think she and the group will be comfortable with. I would also absolutely put in place a way for her to very quickly communicate, like an X card or something, like, hey, I'm feeling uncomfortable, I'm feeling put on the pressure, or whatever like that, because you can just like deal with that. And she needs a way to be like, hey, I don't need that right now.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to follow every rule perfectly to have an amazing campaign. And it gets back to kind of what we were saying at the beginning, like you don't have to be perfect with voices and all these things, but it can very easily go bad if someone at the table like, no, I've been playing this game for longer than you've been alive, teenage GM. This is how this rule goes.
Right, let me teach you.
Ask me how I know how they sound so well. You can also like put in, instead of teenage GM, you can put in lady, and it works the same. And so having that also, everybody at the table knows and is like, hey, we're not going to worry about this, or we're going to do this, and we're not going to have ponies be harmed in this game because teenage GM loves ponies, or whatever. Like whatever rules you want it to be. Yes, that is one of the rules at my table. Ponies don't get hurt.
You bring up actually a really good point. I think as people with different various experience levels in games, it's very easy as someone who's very experienced to sort of feel like, oh, well, I'm doing a great service by helping out. Here's how you actually do this, and here's how this moment should really happen. I actually feel like that's really, though it's coming from a good place, it's really counterintuitive to what's helpful. I think, one of the quickest way to get somebody to not be into something is to tell them how to do something.
Exactly.
So I think I guess just as I'm reflecting on this whole email, is that since it's going to be possibly a group of mostly adults and a teenage GM, I think as much as you can not tell her how to do anything and just let her be in charge, the better. Honestly, like whether the game goes well or you'll get whatever, decide you're not into it. The best thing that could come out of this is that this young woman feels extremely empowered by being in charge of this table, and it goes on to be a great humanitarian, and it all starts with that one time she was a DM for a bunch of adults that really gave her space and a platform.
Yeah. And giving the space to make mistakes, to learn from it, to not even realize she makes mistakes, because sometimes that's when the best creative stuff happens, and when you're like, I don't know what to do right now. I'm going to do whatever I want. And like not having someone there trying to like hold her hand too much. Like sometimes the best way to learn how to ride a bike is to take the training wheels off and just try it.
I think, and also, I mean, I don't know if you're going to have this teenage DM listen to this episode. If you are, okay, like I don't mean to be patronizing in this next comment, but it's more like I think find ways to let the DM know that the things that are happening are exciting, are interesting. If there's a compelling challenge, really lean into, be like, oh my God, that's complicated. I don't know what I'm gonna do. What do you think I should do? Like really
Play
kind
it
of
up.
let the drama play up. Let them feel what it's like to increase the stakes. If there's a joke that they're trying to make, help them find their timing. Laugh at it. Support them, applaud them. Obviously, I think as parents, it's really easy for your kids to suss out when you are just patronizing them. It's just doing
No way. My 5-year-old thinks, you tied your shoes. That's amazing. Great job. It's like totally realistic.
Eye roll, right?
That's how I react to everything all the time. I'm so proud of you. You did the thing. You flushed the potty. Good job.
Right. You want to find you want to find a middle ground, but that's the challenge for you, adult player. It's like, how do you compliment this young person without patronizing them?
I'm going to give you like a couple hints to this.
Okay.
As someone who works with young people a lot, and it works hard to fool them, don't say the compliments and stuff directly to them.
Yeah.
Say it to the other people next to you.
We love this.
Yeah, I'd be like, Artem, isn't that amazing? I don't know what we're going to do.
Oh my God. I'm stunned. What an incredible challenge.
Yeah, what do you think? I mean,
really about this. This is
lean in like you're trying to like suss out how to do it, or like a little bit of meta talk or whatever it is, like that. That's much more believable, especially for a teenager who's like very good at like the bullshit smelling. That's a big thing. Talking afterwards, like not necessarily to her, but afterwards, like if you're walking out, oh, that was so much fun, and saying it to the other people, the other players, that's always a very like authentic feeling and sounding, and it should be like, but also in that moment, like whatever your reaction is, just play it up a little bit more, like not too much, don't dial it to 11, but if you're having a 3 reaction, make it a 5, like, whoa, that's a cool picture, nice, okay. Or, oh, that thing looks scary. Okay, like, whatever it is. I don't know.
Totally, yeah. I mean, if you're role-playing some kind of fantasy like pro wrestling, go over the top. You know what I mean? Jump around. Make a fool yourself. Pour a beer over your head and excitement.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
I just realized Kimmy before mentioned something called CATS. So just to clarify, Google it. I forget what it all stands for, but Google CATS. CATS is a world-building, tone setting tool in RPGs. It's created by Patrick O'Leary. Thank you so much, Kimmy. We're doing in-house. This is why you're a top producer.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So CATS stands for, what is it? I want to say concept, right?
Yes. I'll finish Googling it in just a second. I will remember it in a minute. Here we go.
There it is. Okay.
Concept, aim. So concept is, what is the game about? What's the summary and the setting, the characters, the main thing. So like, okay, we're going to be playing in post-apocalyptic fantasy. So there's dragons and magic and also like all this old tech everywhere that doesn't work anymore, or whatever your concept is. Aim is, what is the player's goals in the game? Okay, we're going to be tracking down who like made the apocalypse, and so we're gonna go try, or whatever it is. So it's just like the basic idea, so that people know what to play.
And aim is also a place to establish expectations.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, do you want this to be musketeers in a post-apocalyptic world, or do you want this to be skateboarders in a post-apocalyptic world?
Yeah, exactly. Are we gonna have like fights in between, between party members? Is it gonna be player versus player at all?
Yes.
Are we gonna allow that? Are we not gonna allow that? Tone, again, like what kind of atmosphere do you want to achieve?
Right.
Like what piercing.
Is this going to be Pokemon or is it going to be Breaking Bad?
Yeah,
It's really different tones, you know?
Yeah. Ask Ketchum Gazelle. Okay. Creepy, goofy, scary, things like that.
Yeah.
And then subject matter, discussing potential topics that might upset people.
Yeah.
And that's a great place to use like a lines and veils tool.
Mhm.
Like, hey, yeah, drug sales okay. Catching small rodents in like these weird technological balls is fine. Like, but maybe not, dying of cancer. Like whatever it is.
There you go.
So this is our.
We're going to make this
Yeah.
Breaking Bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
got to catch them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also subject matter is a place where you, along with the lines of veils, you could like be like, and also let's use an X card, like introduce some kind of safety tool, so just so everybody. So that's CATS,
Mm-hmm.
concept, aim, tone, subject matter.
Yeah.
So really useful, helps
Yeah.
everybody get on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, something you mentioned about the compliments thing
Mhm.
that reminded me. At the end of the session, this could often be at the end of a session could often be a bit of a lonely time for a GM because you'd be like, oh my god, great session, everybody. Okay, great. And then everybody just sort of is like, let's do something else, talk about something else. And there's the GM with like, it's like that sad like Hulk walking away in the distance. Like it's like, it's got like a bunch of papers in front of you, like, where's my whole game and world? And okay, bye. Like find ways to engage with them after and just be like, how was that for you? What do you think? What's exciting? Blah blah blah. Like, do we do? Just to kind of like have a nice way to like close it out.
I would also suggest making characters that are very exaggerated. So if you make a very smart, analytic character, make them very, very smart and very analytic, over the top to deal with things.
Yeah.
So and like making characters that are a little bit too brash or a little bit too curious or a little bit like have these big flaws that will make them buy into plot points more easily is absolutely something that can help when you have a new, especially young DM.
That's a good way to signal to them to be like, this really analytical person would be really excited to pick apart a puzzle if you've got one,
Yeah.
Or this like brash person can't wait to like jump over this pit that may or may not have a trap in it, Yeah, that's a great way to like, please give us the challenges.
And it gives you as a player and a character, it's easier for you to buy into things. Like new DMs, GMs like have sometimes a little less grace in what happens. So it's like, oh, a dragon is attacking the town over there. Well, I don't think I want to go there. Like, no, like it gives you that like impetus. Like, I'm very curious. I've never seen a dragon in person. That seems like a great idea. So then it's like it's just a little bit more smooth going with a somewhat clunky, possibly storyline, and you can have like believable reasons why you would actually follow this strange path that probably doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's really funny. I feel like actually there's something there you can pick apart how D&D and some big high fantasy kind of fall apart once you start to question the logic. There's a dragon over there.
Yeah.
Let's not go there. Oh, okay. Well, I guess the game's over,
Yeah.
So it really
happened my first game I ever DM'd. It was a 5e game, and I like came up with this like little island that like was having like secret sacrifices and stuff, and they were like, and I forget exactly how I set it up because it was many years ago now. But one of the players, Bruce, if you're a long-time listener, you'll know who Bruce is. Like, is very smart and very analytical, and he actually works in like space exploration stuff for his real job.
Whoa.
And like, it was like one of these things where it's like, okay, you're gonna go to this island, and he kind of is like, why would I go there? And I was like, because I told you to, and it's because this is where the game takes place. Bruce, stop this! Stop it now!
I'm doing, Bruce.
Yeah, and like he was kind of giving me shit, but also it was like a very quickly learned lesson. Like, oh, yeah, I didn't think about that part. Of course, you want to go there. Why wouldn't you want to go to the little island where sacrifices are being made? Come on.
Yeah.
So it's like when I was like, don't be that. Don't be that.
Yeah,
like,
don't worry
as
about
an adult giving me shit as like a peer, it was pretty funny, but don't do it to a poor teen, like soon to be GM. She doesn't need
You're
that
playing
shit.
a game. The team DM is also playing a game, but she might just have to be taken a little bit more serious than you. So yeah, help her feel like she's really created a compelling action-packed plot.
Yeah.
Amazing. Wow.
All right.
That was really fun.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so to close
Thanks. Yeah, I'll go read it. Thanks to the many, many hours of diversions and perspectives and ideas and all of that. And here's to many, many hours to come. Eric from Alabama, Dr. Fust on the Discordiatron. Excellent. That's a word. It's a thing. Thank you so much
Thank
for writing in.
you.
Yep, absolutely. Awesome. So mailbag 3.
Whoa! Surprise cameo from celebrity.
Hey, Dave.
Would you like to read this?
Sure.
Okay.
Also, with the first question, because I was listening the drive over here.
Oh.
Alchemy tabletop is beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Alchemy. That's great.
It is super great for a virtual tabletop thing.
Mhm.
I know, late advice, but yeah, it's great.
No, that's great. And
there's
this,
tons of
friends,
packages.
yeah, and oh yeah, the packs
They're
are very
here's
cool.
whole big chunks of.
Chunks of tons of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Like, it's one of the-
Cool.
yeah. This is one of the reasons that I decided, like, oh, we're gonna have the podcast on Saturday, like late afternoon now, so that we can hang out afterwards, because it makes people show up more, even if they're late.
Listen, 5 o'clock is a little early for me to get over here.
You're true. It is a little early.
I will likely be more of a hangouter than a
Oh, okay.
get here on time.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate being here.
Since you guys managed to talk enough, I
Yeah.
got here in time for the third
That's
question.
right.
I am shocked that Artem and I were able to talk so much.
Well,
That's
you know, every
crazy.
once in a while,
Surprise me.
it's happened every once in a while where we get an email and everybody's like, "Yes, I agree,"
That's true.
and then
That's correct.
Done.
Good,
Accurate.
you have done the right thing. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And then everybody's like, "I
Everybody-
should come up with something else to say."
Everybody shakes hands and just moves on.
Yeah, we're
I
great.
like cheese. Like, you know. All right. From 2017. Hello, Jackers. I'm writing in with a GM success and horror story confession. It's all of the above. It's everything.
It's everything.
I'll start with the success, in which I lay claim to victoriously getting a group together and running a D&D 5e campaign up to 8th level. That's not a joke. That's a decent amount of campaigning.
Yeah.
At which time they emerged happy from many dungeons and slew an adult black dragon in its lair, after much preparation and the destruction of its supporting evil cult. That's how you gotta do it.
Yeah.
Every good dragon slaying starts with the foundation. I was inspired to DM my first time by Happy Jacks, and I got 6 players to get together once or twice a month for about 2.5 years. I feel like my ability to multitask engaged lots of people's desires, and was honed by teaching.
Yes.
I feel like my ability to I went back up. And I was used to being the one doing a lot of the talking, directing the action. It was great fun, and one of my players, who is full of artistic creativity, got so into it that they have taken over the campaign so I could start a Coriolis game. Yay!
Woo!
Cool.
Go Free League. From the same publisher and similar system to Tales from the Loop, exactly. And Mutant Year Zero, which is also going great at this time. With the D&D campaign in my friend's hands, I rolled up a bard to join the party and sing songs of their greatness. And from there comes the horror story.
Dun, dun,
Have
dun.
a drink.
Oh, here we go.
I'll bank it
Yeah.
for
Soon.
the future, I
Soon.
promise. And from I spent 2.5 years as God, an experience which was not translating well to the player side of the game. I didn't care about the death of minions or even bosses. There was always another cult member ready to step up and take their place, or a monster to be summoned or hacked together Frankenstein style. When I started to be the target of 8d6 breath weapons, however, I held on a little too closely to my precious character, and tried to rules lawyer my way out of as much damage as possible. When I have hammed it up, picking out songs to play on my iPod for each of my spells, speaking in a funny voice, and trying to use as much as possible of the environment to earn D&D's inspiration mechanic. I got too obviously and vocally disappointed when the GM wasn't forthcoming with it. I confess I have been spotlight hogging. I think this is an after effect of anxiously over-talking to fill up the empty space as GM. In our last session, I got petrified after failing a con save in the first 5 minutes of the game, and spent the next 2 hours grumpy, which is probably cosmic payback for all the spotlight hogging, but doesn't play well alongside the other bad behavior I've had as a player so far. I feel like I've broken the don't be a douche aspect of the social contract from the previous email you fielded. It's not like I don't know I'm doing it, and I have apologized and tried making up for it, but it's hard changing roles and gears. Any advice for a recovering GM trying to play nice? Dave from New York. P.S. Drink.
It's all.
Well,
Wow. That is
I don't think I've ever been in the same campaign that I started.
yeah.
That's hard.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like that's rough.
It's a bit of a mind trip, actually.
Especially because you have like dreams and thoughts and ideas for the world that you spent so much time building, and having it suddenly in someone else's hands, even if it's like a friend or someone you trust and care about, that's hard.
Yeah, that's like asking Kimmy to give a lecture about the Lord of the Rings to Tolkien. Right? like, yeah, get up and talk all about it, huh? Yeah. Oh, and then he's sitting there like, that's not how it is.
Yeah, no. Just shaking
Or the famous Star Wars one of like game developers were trying to figure out how to get a character across a chasm, specifically Darth Vader. Like, how would he get over there? He can't force jump that far. That's too far. It's a big canyon. And then, lo and behold, George Lucas walks by and goes, "Oh, he can fly over there." And literally everybody in the room went, "What do you mean he can fly over there?" And they're like, "Yeah, he can fly," says George. And they're all like, "No. We have decided that we're not taking that."
Really funny. They're like, "Oh, this changes everything. You can fly."
Like,
We don't understand the Force at all.
Yes.
I've never heard that. That's amazing.
So funny.
legit in one of those Force Unleashed games.
Oh, yeah.
And he just was walking by and they're like, "Hey, man," and they're like, "Since you're in the office, can we ask you, how would you get him?" And he's like, "Well, just make him fly over there."
Oh, that gives me a headache. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
So insane.
Amazing.
Thank you, George. What about something else?
Which then opens up all these crazy possibilities of like Darth Vader just straight flying through the space, like hacking wings off of X-wings with a lightsaber, like
That's
just tearing shit up.
amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be so amazing to see all that.
I mean, I guess Leia kind of did that. Like, she flew through space.
Kind of, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's so many
Wow.
problems.
There's a lot of questions. Wow.
I have so many now.
So many
Yeah.
possibilities.
Yeah.
But to this scenario, I mean, yeah, I've heard like tales of magical tables who are like, well, I GM for 2 months and then we switch it over, and Kimmy GMs for 2 months and then switch it over, and then Dave GMs, and it's all like the same campaign, and we're all just trading off hats, being the GM. And it's like, that's cool, wild.
Yeah.
I've never been part of that, and I feel like I would be really curious to see what that feels like. But if you've been going nonstop and then just turning over the reins,
Yeah.
tough.
Twice. Yeah. And it's like they play twice a month. That's like a lot
That's
of
a lot,
sessions.
yeah.
So many
For
sessions.
2 years,
Yeah, I feel like if you have something like that set up ahead of time, like you're gonna do more like collaborative world building. You're all like,
Yeah,
you're gonna
for sure.
source stuff. You're like, okay, these are my every 2 months, twice a month. So it's like, okay, these are my 4 sessions. Then someone else does 4 sessions. Like, that's very manageable.
Sure.
And that's not as much as like, oh, I've been running it forever. I came up with everything, and here now you get to have it. Like, that's just, I don't know. Like, I am a very collaborative person when it comes to the table, and even I would be like nervous about that. I'd be like,
Yeah.
I don't know about that. Like, maybe having like a time jump would be cool.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Something
Or,
narrative
or
like
like
that.
have someone use that same world and do, 300 years before,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
300 years later, and
Yeah, or you just stepped through a portal and you ended up on the, in the elemental plane of air, and over to you, Dave.
It's all different. Yeah,
Yeah. Or even just another part of the planet or
Yeah.
world, like, that you haven't explored yet, and that's cool.
Totally.
Because then you
The
can
different
pull in
content.
elements that have already been come up with, but then like a whole another culture, ecosystem, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's
It's not quite this, but, and this is, I mean, just a tangential observation. But a friend of mine was telling me about like a PPT he was running, and as a kind of a break from reusing the system, somebody had a magic item that was like allowing them to like jump through different portals, but every time they would jump through a portal, he would pull out a different one-page game. A lot of these were like Grant Howard games. So there's one
Oh, okay.
one of the
Yeah.
one of the worlds was a honey heist world. One of them was a honey heist world. One of them was a the witch's dead world. So it was like
Sure,
a kind of
sure.
a little gimmick to sort of just switch it up. Like, yeah, I feel like for that he could have almost taken a step back and be like, oh, we're just gonna have a guest GM come in here for a little bit to do this.
yeah.
Yeah.
This has
Yeah,
been,
interesting.
yeah, I have friends who have had a very similar situation to this, not using the same world, but where one of them GM'd for a really long time, and then they switched roles and someone else went to GM. And the specifics, I'm not going to say names because people know. But like, it was friendship ending.
Ooh.
Like it was like, because the person who was GMing for a long time, like many campaigns, was suddenly a player. And it wasn't a streamed game here, so don't try and like figure it out, people. But like, they were such a dick, like, at the table, like, because they were kind of
They're
like,
just used to being the person coming up with
Yeah, and they were just kind of like, well, and they like didn't like some of the choices that the person is making, and like it was like we're very like telegraphing when they were unhappy about things, but without like very passive aggressive about it. And it was just one of those things where the person was like, I thought this person was a totally different person, would like support me as a GM, and this person had GM'd before. It wasn't like they were a brand new GM that was like doing things wrong, and it hurt their feelings so much. They were like, I don't want to be their friend anymore because they were such a dick after me being a good player for them for so long, so many different times. Like, it was very personally hurtful to have them be so judgmental about when I was in charge of creating the story,
Wow.
because it's something that's very personal to people. It can
Yeah.
it's so much just like putting yourself out there, even if you're a low prep GM and you're not spending hours and hours between sessions. It's still
Terrifying.
yeah, it's terrifying, and you're there with your friends, and nobody wants their friends to be dicks. Like, don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not cool.
That's rough. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, I felt bad for the people involved, but I think this is something you really need to take seriously, Dave from New York from 2017, because this is something that that can really hurt friendships. Even if you think your friendships are beyond this, this is stuff that matters to people. If you're dedicating this much time to a game and making sure you're there, and a schedule, and learning rules, and creating characters, and putting yourself out there creatively as a player or a GM, like being like this is something that can really harm things. So like, take a step back, and it sounds like you have done some reflection, but I would do some major, like, making sure it doesn't happen anymore, making sure that you made it clear, like, hey, I'm really sorry, this is a hard transition for me, I apologize, like, and explaining to them why it's happening. Because if you didn't just saying, hey, I'm sorry, I messed up on that, I was being a jerk about this, like, explain why, like, oh, I'm having hard with transitioning, like so people understand, so they realize it's not you just being a bossy asshole. I don't know, I went into a little bit of a diatribe there. Sorry.
No, I mean, I agree. Yeah.
Not to like get psychoanalytical about it. I mean, I can see how the shift from GM to player could feel a little bit like, oh, I used to have all of this attention, and now I'm getting a fraction of it. And so whenever I have an opportunity to have some of it, I'm just trying to get as much juice as I can out of it. So I'm hogging the spotlight. I am, also playing a bard is a really interesting choice, because your whole thing is you're a performer. You kind of thrive from attention, and playing, your like favorite songs with your spell, which is super fun. But then in the context of this, just kind of feel like different ways to take up space, and it seems like it was probably it's something you must have needed a little time to grieve, to be like, oh, I'm really stepping into a different experience of the game, and it's not all about me.
Yeah. I mean, as much as you're probably very involved with your character, it might be something where you need to switch characters, or you need to be somebody completely different, or, I mean, if you can't get everyone to change the setting, which would be I think our first agreed upon bit of advice is, like, change the setting somehow, so it's in the future, the past, somewhere else on the continent, if you really want to keep in this world. But I think second of that, and you can all keep your same characters and do that. I think there's a lot of very creative ways for you to be the bard and whoever else is in your play group, in your party, and then have them, like David, the teleportation idea is a great idea.
Yeah, just get out of there.
Yeah.
Just bail.
Somewhere new that you get to explore, and not just pretend like you don't know the answers. I feel like it's always harder to not be a show off when you already know everything about it.
Especially if like you handed over some of your notes about stuff that you had worked on, or you're like, well, I know how the Duke of this city feels about X, Y, or Z, so we could really make a lot of money, guys. Like, that would be hard for me to step out of that.
Yeah. I think it's also, it could be tricky, even if you're not the GM, but you're just in a game with someone who, I don't know, like, just happens to know a lot about the setting, a lot about the world, and like then they'll sort of feel like compelled to be like, well, you see, in this duchy, the way they do things is they have to have this vote, and you're like you wouldn't know this as a character, so this is a little bit you taking up time as a player at the table, and you're pulling focus. And also, it's this sort of like not so much as like knowledge hoarding, but it's a bit of a,
Especially as a bard.
especially the bar.
Like you're like, I know all the stories of this
yeah.
world, and it's like you do, and now you're a know-it-all as a player and as a character. You've made a character where you can know all the stories and all the things.
For sure.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
It's always one of my big terrors whenever I run a game that's tied to an IP.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, even if it's something I'm a big fan of,
Yeah.
there's always a bigger fan,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
Yep.
and I'm always, especially at like a con or somewhere in
Yeah.
public, where I'm like, cool, okay, people are gonna sit down and play my game, and I'm like, I'm ready to go. We're gonna have fun with this. And then you get that person at the table that's like,
Yeah.
I have written all of this. Like, you know?
Really fun. Yeah, you
Uh,
said that you're
yeah.
playing the Dune RPG, and Frank Herbert sits in front of
Right,
you.
exactly.
It
Like,
impressed me.
yeah.
Mhm.
Like, let's tell our story about this
Yeah.
world. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, but I guess I will compliment this person for at least having the self awareness to be like, yeah, I messed up. I was a pretty kind of shitty to be around. I mean, it's I'm glad you're kind of calling that out. I think it's hard to kind of have a self awareness check in, and to your point, Kimmy, too, is like, yeah, like, all right, what are the steps to think about how this doesn't happen in the future? Yeah.
But it takes a big person to
really
recognize
does.
it. And it sounds
really
like
does.
they've started to take some steps to apologize and stuff, which is great. So many people don't have the humility to do that. They're just like, well, whatever. I'll just be better from now on, and they don't actually like prepare
I feel
anything.
like the first 5 seasons of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast was like, can you just go talk to them?
Yeah, so
Like,
much.
be a damned adult and go have a conversation. You'll
So-
figure this problem out.
Yeah. It's
you know?
amazing how rare it is. Like in adult relationships with people who give advice for people to talk to each other. Sometimes even we have like moments where we're
sure.
like, well, so and so, I can't believe that Dave did this our time. I can't. And you're like,
Well,
Kimmy, go talk to him. What do
Yeah.
you say? Like,
what did you tell him?
Yeah.
I haven't said anything.
I haven't said anything.
Okay, well.
I'm just pissed.
yeah, exactly.
Ugh.
Oh, humans are complex
For
creatures.
sure.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're set and ready to go hang out. So,
Woo.
thank you for joining us for season 35, episode 1 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. Can't wait to have our first indie designer of the month of the season next month, starting in February. So we have a whole month. But in the meantime, if you want to plan to come hang out with us at OrcCon 2025, you can join us at the Hilton LAX February 14th through the 17th. So come play games with us. We're recording live on Saturday night. It'll be great. Thank you to our chat mod, James V, and to our amazing Patreons who keep us ad-free and independent. You can join their amazing ranks at happyjacks.org/Patreon. Thank you especially as we panicked today because our old soundboard died. We have a new soundboard because our Patreons support us so well. It was great. It was a very stressful day, but it sounds pretty good, I think. It sounds good. Also, my name is Kimmy, and you can find me at Golden Lasso Girl on Blue Sky and other places on the internet.
Oh, my name is Artem, and you can find me online at Artem Directly. That's on Instagram. And you can also check out my food and movie critical analysis podcast, Scary Movie and a Sandwich. Hard-hitting topics, combining sandwiches with scary movies. It's a YouTube show and a podcast show. And I am running a Mouse Ritter RPG called What About Bob's right here on Happy Jacks on Tuesday nights. So I hope you join us for that.
Yeah.
And I'm Kadave, and I was here for 15 minutes, but I made it. Woo!
The best 15 minutes,
Oh,
Dave. The
incredible
best
15.
15 minutes.
Iconic 15.
And I think starting this next week, I will be back streaming with a new game because the Space Trucker is just not catching.
Oh,
It's not
okay.
catching on.
Okay.
I was hoping it would, but it hasn't.
Okay.
But you can find me on Twitch at CA Sith Lord or at Blue Sky, CA Sith Lord, which is a now viable place to say that, which is great. And knock on the table, I shall be at OrcCon too. I don't know what I'm running yet, but I got to get something in there.
Same.
'Cause
Cool.
I feel bad.
Yeah. And yeah, if you want to run something or if you want to sign up for something, you can go to strategicon.net, and that's the website for OrcCon.
Mhm.
All right. Exciting. All right. Yeah, today we are going to leave you with a song. It's called Laser Printed Hero. It's by The Mary Sues, you can find them at marysuesband.com. And yeah, it's the intro song, but it's the whole thing. So very exciting way to kick off season 35. Welcome back, everybody. We're here again.
Woo!
Right in, please. Okay, bye.
She looks upon the landscape of this ancient battlefield. She looks upon the horrors that curiosity revealed. That endless goblin army, full of avarice and vice. She gently calms her battle steed as she reaches for her dice. And she's a laser-printed hero, a figure cast in lead. And if you miss a dice roll, she may just end up dead. Don't forget about her backstory, both family and foe. And if this is her last stand, well, that's just how the story goes. She rushes into battle with her fearful, stony gaze. Today she'll give no quarter as she rushes through the haze. She spurs her great horse forward as she waves amongst the horde. She leaves a trail of corpses with her trusty +3 sword. And she's a laser-printed hero, no prisoners shall she take, 'cause she's deep into her battle range from a role you didn't make. Her companions keep their distance, so they're not mistook for foes. And if she kills the healer, well, that's just how the story goes. And now the battle's over, her companions give a toast unto the mighty hero that turned that goblin host. She looks around the tavern and she mutters, "What the heck?" She spots a half-elf barkeep as she rolls her charisma check. And she's a laser-printed hero, and if she has any luck, she'll charm that sexy half-elf and have a real good time. The details will gloss over, not once her sword in prose. And if they take her treasure, well, that's just how the story goes. And she's a laser-printed hero, a figure cast in lead. And